Welcome back. This week, House Democrats fought to stall an Obamacare repeal bill put forward by Republicans. They forced meaningless votes on the House floor, and in two committees, even required committee clerks to read the entire text of the bill out loud. President Donald Trump said that if the repeal effort does not work, he'll allow Obamacare to fail and let Democrats take the blame for it. So are these petty tactics by Democrats playing right into Trump's hand then? Joining me now, attorney and Democratic strategist Adam Sostrin. Adam, good to see you.
Oh, it's so great to be here. I think it's been like 3 weeks.
It has. It's been quite some time. I always enjoy having you on the show. Adam, let me ask you, the Democrats' main talking point right now is they're talking about 20 million. 20 million people gained insurance, they said, healthcare coverage, I should say, under Obamacare. 20 million people will lose their coverage if Obamacare is repealed. Even a fraction of those 20 million might die, they say, if Obamacare is repealed. But Adam, I mean, I guess this is mind-boggling to me because if you actually look at the numbers, since Obamacare was fully implemented in 2015, really only 14 million people have gained coverage. Of those 14 million, 11.8 million of them were just funneled into Medicaid. They didn't even get Obamacare plans. Adam, to me, that makes the 20 million numbers. I mean, it's a fraud. It's a fraudulent number.
You know, people are saying that there's some sort of a death spiral with respect to signing up for the Affordable Health Care Act, and meanwhile numbers continue to increase. The issue being that it is the case that if replace doesn't work, first of all, we need repeal to work. I'm sorry, the Republicans need repeal to work, and they need replace to work for this to work. You need both things to happen. So people do have some concerns. They don't want a repeal without a replace. So we're there, and we have issues, obviously, even with the Republican Party. It seems like they can't really get it together. Do they have enough votes in the Senate to make it happen? Do they have enough votes in the House to make it happen? Is this not a conservative enough measure? So there's all these things that are just sort of at play right now. It's interesting times, but it's scary for the American people.
No, I totally agree with you. In fact, I was talking about it earlier in the show. I'm one of the conservatives who's disgruntled about this proposal. I don't think it goes far enough. I don't think it will truly repeal the parts of Obamacare that have caused premiums to skyrocket, that have caused the whole health care act to go into death spiral like it is. But that's why I was attacking kind of the core bragging rights, the core accomplishments that Democrats are crediting with Obamacare. They say the reason that Obamacare is successful is because it's covered 20 million people. But Adam, my question to you is, if it has not actually covered 20 million people, and I broke down how it hasn't, what is successful about Obamacare?
Well, I mean, if you're still covering 13 million, 14 million, or 15 million Americans who didn't have it, it's still something that is successful.
But they were funneled to Medicaid. It's not Obamacare plans.
Well, and with respect to Medicaid, it seems to be that the writing's on the wall with respect to the new Trumpcare, that they want to get rid of Medicaid in places where states opted to expand it. People have genuine concerns. I just read an interesting article by Kasich in Ohio. They have Medicaid, and they're very concerned. This is one of the states that asked for expansion under the Affordable Care Act. They're very concerned that they're not going to be able to afford these patients. Are you going to have to increase taxes? You can't just have a repeal of it. That's not appropriate. And I understand that there's some sort of a
right. I mean, there's a replacement that's in the House of Representatives right now. But the idea, I mean, this is what Obamacare was designed to do. It was designed to funnel these patients into Medicaid. Our Congress people, when they passed Obamacare, they knew it would funnel patients into Medicaid. And Adam, I don't understand the liberal mindset here when it comes to this, because when you look at the best way to provide the best quality, the highest quality of healthcare to the American people, Medicaid shouldn't even be on that list. When you look at studies about the quality of the healthcare provided under Medicaid, it is not only lower than privately insured patients, it's lower than patients without insurance. I don't know how you can defend a healthcare system that's designed to put people into Medicaid.
I mean, lower than for patients who don't have insurance. Patients who don't have insurance are then sucked with a major bill from a hospital, and they have to declare bankruptcy. It's interesting in the United States.
But I'm saying, like, Medicaid patients are more likely to not only suffer consequences and complications, but actually die than patients without insurance or patients with privately owned insurance.
I mean,
why didn't our Congress people design a plan so that private insurers were the ones that handled these people instead of funneling them into the system where they knew the quality of care was going to be so poor?
It's interesting that you say that about people dying at hospitals. There was a recent study that came out that said, I think the third leading cause of death is some sort of accident that occurs at a hospital. People
Right.
die from it. I mean, this is something that's occurring nationwide, but at least the people with Medicaid are getting some kind of a coverage. I mean, that's the issue. You can't qualify for this, you qualify for Medicaid, and you take it. And the reason you don't take it, because if you don't, and you have some sort of emergency medical procedure, then you declare bankruptcy. And as I was saying before, it's interesting that with respect to emergency medical procedures, bankruptcy is the most common reason for bankruptcy is because you have some sort of sudden emergency condition that occurs. So of course you have
Right.
to be covered by an insurance plan. But I don't think I agree.
But it's not just coverage, though. I mean, these people that are covered under Medicaid, it's not as simple as you lay out, in the sense that since Obamacare has funneled, 11.8 million more people onto Medicaid, more doctors every day are refusing to see Medicaid patients. So they may technically have Medicaid, but they're not able to see any doctors for their problems, especially specialists. So when they have those serious, expensive, or emergency procedures, they still can't get it paid for.
Well, no one has an answer to the medical care crisis that's going on, and I definitely call it a crisis. But I don't think that the Trump solution of getting rid of the individual mandate and making it so people who are wealthy are no longer going to be covering the $302 billion that was going to be covering the people that are being insured, it's going to mean that there's going to be escalating premiums. People aren't going to afford insurance, and then more and more people are going to want to have solutions like Medicaid that aren't going to be available. I really think, and again, I read this piece on Kasich, I really think it makes sense that reconciliation, the idea of doing this by a simple majority vote, I know the Democrats sort of ushered that in. I think that's a mistake, as it was a mistake with respect to the passage of
Sure.
the Affordable Health Care Act. It was so divisive, and we don't
Right,
need
it was
that.
so secretive. And I don't want that from Republicans either. I think that they should slow down and do this right. But
Right.
when it comes down to it, I mean, the numbers just don't add up for me, Adam. They just don't. If they did, that would be a different argument. But that 20 million number, it's not true. 14 million people is the real number. 11.8 million of those people on Medicaid. The net is 2.2 million people have been covered by Obamacare. That number is fewer than the number of people who lost their coverage because of Obamacare. So all these talking points about people losing coverage or people being without it or not being able to pay for it, it just doesn't add up. It's just not there.
Well, it's interesting. There's even more talking points with respect to the fact that they don't even think Trumpcare is going to be able to take care of more people than who's currently being cared for under this system, under the Affordable Care Act. So obviously, we don't have a solution right now that's working. But hopefully, we're going to find out from, I think, the Congressional Budget Office. They're going to come up with some kind of number we're going to have in, I guess, at any time now,
Right,
so we can have a
hopefully.
sense of these things.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
But I don't agree with getting rid of the, I don't want premiums to escalate. So the issue is, how do we handle that?
Right, and I mean, you know that you and I disagree on that. You believe in the mandate. I think that the free market competition makes all the difference in the world. I'm sure we'll get into this more in the upcoming weeks as this debate continues across our country. But today we're out of time, Adam. Thanks for being here.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
All right.